What's up guys, back with another training log and Q&A. I was traveling a bit over the start of this week, which led to a drop in my body weight. I was also spotting and loading 2 sessions of the meet on Sunday, which was quite fatiguing. So obviously that means because of all this fatigue, I couldn't work hard, I need to deload and rest, right? Actually, I squatted 695 pounds. It was the easiest and fastest single all training cycle, even though it's the heaviest single. My strength as a whole was the best it has been all training cycle. That was despite, again, my weight decreasing to the lowest it has been in a month. I outperformed all the indicators, saying I should have had a bad week. This is something I see a lot of people do. They placebo themselves into thinking they're going to have something bad happen. This is going to hurt my knee. This is going to move poorly because I got an hour less sleep than normal. It's almost the winter solstice, so the decreased daylight will hurt my vitamin D and kill my strength. Expectations matter. I have mentioned this study before. They told people they had good or bad genetics, whether they actually did or not, and it actually influenced their outcomes more than the actual genetics in predicting their response to exercise. The point being, even if your external variables are bad, don't assume your training will be bad. You can still do great, and even if not, there's no reason you shouldn't be trying your best anyways. On that subject of fatigue, I can definitely notice that even though my squat single was easier this week than in past weeks, it left me more fatigued. This is something I think can be counterintuitive to people. Fatigue isn't going to be directly related to how hard something feels. As you get stronger in an absolute sense, the heavier weight can be more fatiguing even if it is easier. I find this is most important for people in that stage where they're going from being a beginner lifter to a more intermediate lifter. That's what they really define as the difference between these two phases. It's where the fatigue between your workouts is actually going to have to start being a factor in your program. You're not just lifting such light weights that you can recover really quick between sessions, basically no matter what. You actually have to give it some consideration in your programming and how it can impact your training quality if you're doing too much too close together and you're still going to be carrying some fatigue. I actually think it's the number one reason I see people plateauing as they become intermediates is because they haven't gotten their hands around proper fatigue management. Again, I still think people tend to be too afraid of fatigue nowadays. While it is a consideration, you don't have to get super neurotic about it. There's people talking about the differences between things like going to absolute failure versus keeping 1 rep in reserve. If you should control the eccentrics on your very last rep because that could be too fatiguing. How you need to do the strictest and most stable accessories possible. A little bit of cheating, that's going to use other muscles and completely fatigue you. People start with good intentions on something that does matter like fatigue management, and they just take it to this neurotic extreme where the stress is just not worth the tiny benefit they're getting. The same principle applies to a lot of tiny details. You have to ask yourself, is the potential benefit worth all this energy worrying over it? Anyways, that's what I had to say about my training this week. Now onto the Q&A portion. Comment more questions you have below. So the first question had to do with breathing during a set. So in this case, I think he just needs to rebreathe over the set, but this is something I find people get wrong about bracing a lot. More brace can be better, but when we're talking about rep work, you might get more performance benefit out of bracing a little less. The small loss in bracing will be offset on longer sets by the ease breathing. The next question was about implementing hypertrophy blocks for lifters. I don't really think this is necessary. Studies on block periodization, doing one focus at a time, like say hypertrophy, versus undulating periodization, where you're doing multiple goals at once, hypertrophy, strength, etc., favor undulating periodization. You can be working on hypertrophy at any time. You don't need to focus on it, and most top powerlifters nowadays do undulating periodization. They're not doing specific phases for hypertrophy, strength, etc. That being said, I still think block periodization can be useful for people who just find things have gotten a little stale and want to try a bit of different style of training. I don't think there's really any specific recommendations here, just do more hypertrophy style training. Closer to failure, focusing on isolating muscles versus bigger compounds. Next question, what is the lowest intensity you think you can use and still make progress? What I've found is it's actually quite low. I've done work around the 70% range of my max for doubles. That would be around the 15 rep max for me. Thus I would be below 0 RPE technically. I'd be at like -3. Now how does this work? Well, when strength training, research shows that higher percentages lead to better gains. But I do think you can make strength gains at very low intensities like this, but the key is keeping intent high, treating it like a max. That way we're still activating as much of our muscle fibers as possible, just like we would with more maximal weights. There's research on this too, showing higher velocity improves gains for the same load lifted, implying that this increased activation of muscle fibers worked. There's more to it as well, I'll link below to a good video that goes over it, but that's it for the video today guys. Thanks for watching, please like, comment more questions down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, and once again, thanks for watching.